Hey, everybody. It's the 40th episode of Radiant Reflections. I'm joined with a very special guest, a friend, Ingrid Lochamire. Ingrid, thanks for coming and being willing to do this.
Thank you.
We've actually talked about podcasting a couple times.
Yes, we have.
And I thought this is going to be cool for us to be able to do this.
Yeah.
So Ingrid is a longtime friend. We went to church together many, many years ago.
Yes.
And her son is a co-worker. I get to work with her son, Jamie, one of her sons.
One of them?
Yep.
Yeah, one of four.
Yeah, one of four boys. And Jameson's a joy to work with. And so, yeah, that's part of my daily. And now we go to church together again at Radiant Life. Her and her husband, Ken. How long have you guys been coming to Radiant Life?
Almost 3 years. 2 years.
2 years. Okay,
2 years.
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it'd been that long. That's great.
Yeah.
And you just recently graduated and finished with the Radiant Institute.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that experience,
Okay.
then we'll get into coffee.
Okay.
But tell us about Radiant Institute.
Oh, well, I feel like everyone should walk through something that intense, that is that intentional about getting us into the Word and fully understanding to the best of our ability where it came from, the messages, but also the context and the culture. And then we got into spiritual formation. That was excellent. The guys, our pastors are so dedicated to giving us meat. And yes, I'm excited for this new season and for new people to get to go through it.
Yeah, I signed up. I really wanted to go through it myself. Yes. And our worship team has a small cohort that's been going almost a year together. 7 of us have been on a spiritual formation journey together. Awesome. And it's something we actually talked with the regional district, our district with the Wesleyan Church, and we're going to be offering it to other worship pastors. And so I've got a couple of people that are from other churches that are going to join me for another year-long journey. And so I can't do it. I'm really disappointed. Because Josh and Ryan, I know. I mean, I just kept hearing these snippets of what you guys were doing. I was like, I'm jealous.
Yes.
Especially the formation parts. But
I'm looking forward to the next chapter.
And do you know what's happening next?
It's ministry. It's about sharing the gospel, more intensive. Look at what your gifting might be, what the Lord has given you to use.
Okay. So shape and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Exciting. Okay. Well, on the 40th episode of Radiant Reflections, so listeners, viewers, Ingrid is not generally a black coffee drinker. So she's stretching for you.
Yes.
Okay. So this coffee is from Mammoth Coffee Roasters in New Orleans. When we were down there, we picked this up. This is what I brewed at the SBC, the Southern Baptist Convention. This is an Ethiopian coffee, Duromina. The producer is Kata Maduga Cooperative Union. And it is in the region of Agaro-Gera Hima. The variety is Ethiopian land races. It's a washed process and grown from 1,900 to 2,100 meters. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3. There's 4 tasting notes. Let's see. Listeners, viewers, by the way, what about Josh last week? Josh said candied lime. I mean, he was dead on, literally dead on.
That's crazy.
It was.
All right.
What do you think?
Okay.
It's probably going to be a little more tart than you're used to because it is not as strong.
And I've had Ethiopian coffee before. Liked it.
Yeah, you gifted me some not too long ago. It was very good.
From Detroit.
Yep, I pulled shots with that. I drank a lot of espresso with that one.
Yeah.
What do you think?
There's something tangy and tart and not exactly cherry, but there's a fruitiness there.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would be citrus.
Okay.
But maybe. But there's also some heat, not heat because it's hot, but like some warmth to
like a spice?
it. A spice. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Spice in Ethiopia. Goodness. So yeah, we'll go with maybe a tart cherry almost.
Okay.
And spice. One more. I didn't roll it across my tongue.
You got to do that. I know. They poke fun at me about that, but I think it makes a difference. Mammoth coffee.
Not cinnamon. Something more subtle.
Yeah, cinnamon would be powerful.
Yeah, it would. Gosh, I'm not doing well.
No, you're good.
I'm not doing well at all.
You're good.
Yeah. It's tangy.
Tart
That's all I can
cherry.
say.
Okay. All right, so here we go. Melon.
Oh.
Melon,
well,
which is kind of generic.
That's so mild.
There's so many different kinds of melons.
Yeah.
But here's what you tasted. Meyer lemon.
Oh.
Meyer lemon.
So it was citrus.
Yep, citrus. Honeysuckle, which I don't
never
what does it taste like? I mean, we have those bushes in
know.
our yard, but
yeah.
And then orange popsicle.
Oh goodness.
I know. How do they come up with this stuff?
I don't know.
Let's see here if we can get that to. It's not going to focus because our eyeballs are in the shot. Yeah, this is a great coffee.
Miserably. It's good. It's really good.
Chad and I
add some
picked this
cream
up.
and sugar, and we'd be good.
You'd be good to go. I don't even have such things here in the studio.
Oh, what a shame.
You know what? I actually do, because my daughter has been drinking coffee. I'm coming right back.
All right, good.
You can talk to the listeners.
Okay. The secret is that I do not drink coffee first thing in the morning. I drink a blend of mushrooms. I'm not sure how JB's going to feel about that when he comes back, but I think he knows. A blend of very healthy mushrooms. And I put cinnamon in it. So I told him about my mushroom coffee. I hope that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've heard about this. Now, I'm going to let you put this in there. Listeners, viewers, you will see this. The dreaded Charbucks.
Oh, dear.
Caramel macchiato.
Okay.
There you are.
Okay.
Non-dairy.
Non-dairy. Almond milk and oat milk. Whoa, I broke
You're
your thing.
Good. My daughter likes, she likes those kinds of
Okay,
drinks.
that'll help me to finish this one.
There you go. Coffee should be drank the way that it makes you happy. That's really, if cream or sugar brings you happiness while you're drinking it, that's the way you should drink it.
I'll probably taste all those notes now that I have some sugar.
I'm guessing you're going to just taste sugar.
Yeah, you're right.
But at any rate. So yesterday, Pastor Ryan brought, and I don't even know which installment of the Mark series it was, but he brought a pretty strong message, Ingrid. Yes. He was teaching in Mark chapters 9 and 10. Mm-hmm. I know I took most of my notes in chapter 9, verses 38 through, I think it was 42.
It was through the end. Oh,
yeah.
No, we got through the salt.
Yes.
So we went to 50, through 50.
Yes, through 50. But it was a strong message, and I think one of the very first questions that popped out that he asked us, and I would be interested to just hear your response on how this landed with you. Mm-hmm. Ryan said, what do you take serious in your life? And he had all these various good parallels.
Yes.
But as he asked that question, what did that bring to the surface for you?
Well, we all have our different preferences of things. I take serious, at this point in my life, because I'm seasoned, we'll say, I take serious things that I think I may not get to enjoy for a very long, long time.
Okay.
Relationships and, children, grandchildren, the freedoms that we have, and but mostly, honestly, these last several years, my relationship with the Lord. And I'm not saying that to be overly religious. That's the highest priority in my life.
Yeah. I thought that question, what do you take serious in your life was an important one, because if you really stop and think about it, what we spend the most, what's first, what's the priority?
Yeah.
We can say what we take serious, like we can postulate it essentially, or we can really look at how we're spending our time.
Yeah.
And how we spend our time is the answer to that question.
Yes.
And that was my next question was, how do you know what you're taking serious?
Okay, this is a true confession, and I already confessed it to my fellow students who went to the Silence and Solitude retreat.
Yeah.
I used to be a news reporter. I'm very political.
Okay.
Which has gotten me in trouble. But
with the News Sun, weren't you?
Yeah, I was with the News Sun and with their outlets, all their outlets.
Yeah, KPC News.
Yeah, I loved that part of my life.
Yeah.
But through this last couple of years, I have put way too much focus on being informed on all sides. I'm not, and so taking time to listen, read, all of those things takes too much time away from other things that are important to me. So I confessed to them back in, was it May when we did our, that I need to shut that down. And I've been working at it. So.
What does that look like for you? When you say shut down, do you mean like time spent on certain outlets, news outlets as a whole, or what is your discipline there?
Yes, on news outlets. And if I want to have a broad exposure, that's not one. That's
bipartisan.
And then also reading. I mean, I don't spend a ton of time online, but there are certain news sources, because I respect media that's done well, like the New York Times, the Washington Post, things like that.
Sure.
So, oh gosh, that makes me sound so geeky, but that is, I think it's important for all of us to be aware, but don't go overboard.
Yeah. You know, I came to kind of a similar conclusion, Ingrid, during COVID. I think it was I don't even know when. It might have been in the first several months. President Trump every night at that time was coming on the news and giving an update.
Yes.
And I noticed when I was sitting there watching this happening, it was just inciting fear.
Yeah.
And it was inciting like a sense or a feeling of attempting to grasp control of something that I had zero.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing I could do about what this guy was saying on the TV to me, president or not.
Frustration, right?
There's nothing I could do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
And at that time, that was the last time I took in any kind of 3-letter network news sources.
Good for you.
Now, I will say, and I'll say to you, shameless plug here.
And everyone else out there.
Yes. There is a wonderful podcast. Josh and I have talked about this a couple times on this podcast. It's called The Pour Over News.
Oh, okay.
It's an audio podcast. It's 5 to 7 minutes, and it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And they literally read the news headlines.
Okay.
And then depending on the gravity of the headline, they will then read a specific scripture that applies to that headline.
Oh,
That's
my
it.
goodness.
They don't speak positively or negatively.
Okay.
It is utterly opinionless.
Okay.
But like when they talk about, for instance, like major crashes and bank failures and all this kind of, then they'll read a scripture that says, don't trust in riches. You know, even though this war in Ukraine is a very, very serious matter, it's not eternally. And that, like, they bring this perspective to me. It's always pointing back to God as the power.
Yes.
So I would tell you to check it out.
I will. Absolutely.
It's
a filter we all need to keep. Yeah. In anything we take in.
Yeah. Well, kind of on the heels of that, I want to read this first section. Now, Ryan didn't really get into this, but I knew you and I were going to meet, and I knew that you're going to have good insights here. So, verse 38 there, John said to him, "Teacher, we saw someone driving out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he wasn't following us."
Yes. Yeah.
Don't stop him, said Jesus, because there's no one who will perform a miracle in my name who can soon afterwards speak evil of me. For whoever is not against us is for us, and whoever gives you a cup of water to drink in my name, because you belong to Christ, truly I tell you, he will never lose his reward. So my question to you, Ingrid, is to say, what can you tell us about like church culture that is inward focused, that's insular, that's myopic, that's my previous pastor used to use this phrase, us for no more.
Oh, Yeah.
What have you seen in your experience in the church and how the church behaves in that way?
Well, first, I want to just let it be known that I hope Ryan did this in both services. He began by saying, when we commissioned the
John and Heather, yes.
But he began also by saying, it's not about radiant life.
Yeah.
We are to be spreading the gospel everywhere we go. And so that made me think too with these verses. You said it, because he was not following us. If we reject all other faiths that are not our faith, no, it's God that is our commonality, our thread that we should all be weaving our faith traditions around or with. And I noticed when I looked back over this yesterday, there are some key points to always keep in mind when you evaluate the interaction you might have with another faith tradition. Don't stop him. No one who does a mighty work in my name, will be able soon afterward, and I'm reading from the ESV, but to speak evil of Jesus, of me. The one who is not against us is for us. So look at that. The one who is not against us. And whoever gives you a cup of water to drink, that just made me think about whoever cares about the people around them and serves them, and that could open a level of trust with other traditions that you may not fully understand or affirm even, or want to do life with, which is a hard decision to make. And then you belong to Christ, and if you proclaim him, you won't lose his reward if you happen to have communion once a month and not every Sunday, or those little things that we hang our hat on. And
there's a lot of tribalism in the church, and I think it's important too for us to say, like when Ingrid says specifically other faith traditions, you're meaning Christian faith traditions, of course.
Yes, of course I am.
But there are even interesting traditions in faiths outside of the Christian faith that are interesting to observe.
Yes.
Obviously we're not going to worship their God.
Right.
And I think that's why Jesus qualifies it in my name, according to the character and nature of Jesus. And there are plenty of faith traditions that are maybe not you and I currently identify in the Wesleyan faith.
Yes,
right?
yes,
we go to a Wesleyan church.
But if I gave you the list of everywhere I've been,
and Josh and I talked about that. There's a lot of wonderful traditions. I've been seeking wisdom and direction in Eastern Orthodoxy in the last couple years, seeking wisdom and direction from the Catholic faith, our Catholic brothers and sisters. There's a lot to be gleaned. There's problems there.
Oh, for sure.
There's problems with the Wesley. You know what I mean?
We are a fallen world, that's why we have a Savior. And
what can we do? Just follow-up question. So inward focus of the church, what do you think we can do individually? What do you do to combat that sort of division? What do you do?
What do I do? Oh, well, I have friends across the spectrum.
Okay.
And actually, my closest friend is agnostic, but I'm going to keep walking with her forever and ever but I try to listen, and I also try not to judge. I mean, there may be judgment in my heart, and I have to deal with that. But if they're bringing me something that rings false, I pay attention to that.
Discernment.
Yeah. I too, with my Catholic background, I still dip back into the faith that formed me, I call it, because that's where I met Jesus. And but then I also, you need to get to a point in your life where you feel safe doing this, but to look at things outside Christianity only with a discerning eye and with prayerful protection, but just consider God created all of us in his image.
Well,
yes.
Yeah. Now, what was I going to say? Do you think, let me think, do you think that there are level of seasons, we'll say, and or maturity levels for Christians that they should be wary about what they're seeking and what they're pursuing, maybe early in their faith?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And I speak that from experience as well. Okay. But we were talking earlier, the verses that we'll get to about, if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off, those things. I think that's a warning for us as followers of Jesus, that be careful what you reach for. Reach for, and it may be something that you feel like you can handle that, but be considered in your choice to reach for or speak of or walk into until you feel confident that you can do that without compromising a rule of life and a standard by which you judge all things, I think is something to work at your whole life.
Yeah.
Guardrails. Guardrails.
Do you have any experiences that you would care to share with us where you may have been at a season and you're looking at a certain thing or certain practice and you recognized, whoa, wait a moment. If that's too personal, feel free to say, let's move on.
Yeah.
But I always like to press a little bit when those sorts of ideas,
Oh, whoa. Should have prepped me for that
one. We don't do much prep. Josh and I roll in with these notebooks. We'll put a pin in that and think about that a moment. Let's keep moving there. Verse 42. And I've got several other questions here. Whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to fall away, it would be better for him if a heavy millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown into the sea. I don't know about you, Ingrid, but I had actually never, in over 20, almost 25 years of walking with Jesus, I had never had someone teach this text and then show an image of a millstone. I'd never seen it.
Yes.
I'd seen millstones in other, but when Ryan put that picture of the millstone on the screen, I was like, oh, whoa, that's like, I might be able to tread water like with a cinder block around my neck for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like a little bit, I think I could probably tread water.
I know I couldn't.
But a millstone? Oh. So what Jesus was really saying is there was a definitive, ferocious judgment and jealousy for those who are new, fresh, young in the faith, that he will, like a roaring lion, defend these folks. And we are to be very cautious. Ryan cautioned us about several things, and I would be interested to hear your thoughts. So he talked about alcohol was one, consumption of alcohol, and then also language, how we speak. Let's tackle the idea of alcohol first. And I loved what he said. He never said, for those of you that were in the room or listening, or if you didn't, he never said you can't drink alcohol or consume alcohol as a Christian. That's just not true. You can't support that in the Bible, and you can look at that yourself. But he did challenge those of us in the faith, if we do choose to consume alcohol, to consider how it could affect others. Yes. Can you speak to that, Ingrid?
Well, he said it straight out. You should never be consuming alcohol with someone for whom it is a problem. And we do experience that in our lives. And so that right there, when I talk of guardrails, that is the place where, now, if it's someone that you've had the conversation with and you know where they are and they know where you are, it depends on your relationship. But and to consider, back when I'd read through quickly in this, those little ones, you think immediately of child because there's a child in the scriptures, but no, it's the young in faith, and that we're talking about here. And he said that yesterday too. We need to remember that, and imagine that's like what we cause in them is our sin too. It's our millstone if we bring them down. I've mentored a number of young women through the years. I take it very seriously. And then it makes me look at my life, and I'm going to cry here, but it makes me look at my life and understand I can talk the talk, but do I walk the walk? Because they're going to get more from what they see than from what they hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That really, what you just said resonated with me alongside with what Ryan said about influence. Oh my goodness, the influence that, and we don't always know, we don't always see those things, the influence that we have until we're right in the middle of those situations. I'll give you listeners, viewers, just a quick example, particularly with the alcohol consumption. So you all know that I'm the worship arts pastor at Radiant Life Church, and we have a covenantal document in order to join our team. And because we really truly believe, a lot of Sundays I may be the guy that's playing guitar and singing most of the songs, but I am one of 60 worship leaders.
Wow.
I'm not the worship leaders. The camera operators are leading worship from the camera. The tech people the lighting directors are leading. They are helping lead worship in their capacity. And so they're leaders in our community. So we have this scenario in our covenant. We say to them, look, nobody's going to tell you, and I use B-dubs as well, like Ryan did.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to get on your case about having a beer while you're eating chicken wings with your friends.
Yeah.
But if we get wind that you're 6, 8, 10 beers deep with your wings, here's what could happen. And this is the scenario I tell them. I say, okay, and this has literally happened. We often go to these restaurants, Ryan and I, Brand, Kinsey, and we're witnessing to the waiters and waitresses.
Oh, yeah.
They know we're followers of Christ, right?
Yeah.
So what would it look like if we're telling these people that Jesus can set you free and Jesus is enough? Like he's enough. You don't need to pursue this. And then we go in as leaders that are on a stage, whether with a camera, whether we're playing guitar, whatever we're doing, and they see us, and they're like, well, what kind of Jesus do they serve? Is he's not enough for them because they're trying to find some answer at the bottom of that bottle for the 10th time. And so we take that very seriously as leaders to say, if you're going to consume alcohol, do so very, very wisely and in consideration of your influence and calling. And I thought Ryan just did a fantastic job of, did you feel the weight in the room?
I did, yes.
It was tangible.
Yes. And I did not expect that when I found what verses we were going to be walking through. Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan asks, so Thursdays we meet, the staff meets for an extended time of prayer for each other. We have a time of worship, and then we have a time of prayer over the services. And it's free, like it free flowing. We don't have a time frame sometimes.
Awesome.
Yeah, we pray, and this week Ryan specifically asked, guys, I got to bring something that's going to be challenging to people. Would you pray that I come with the severity of the text, but with the grace and love of God?
Yes.
And I felt he did a great job with this.
Don't you find it interesting that he had to bring this hard message after, and we were not able to be there last Sunday, but of course we were aware of the baptisms and the joy and everything that happened. It's kind of like, well, we were talking earlier, Jesus just had the transfiguration, and then he comes into some hard questions.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. And I mean, I'm not opposed to occasionally, so for anyone who might want to know, I do occasionally have a beer.
Sure.
I don't like anything hard, but if the girls that I've been walking with were to be with me or see me, just as you're saying, they might question. Yeah.
Yeah, we it's always, I think all of our actions, whether it's alcohol consumption, whether it's the shows that we watch, the music that we listen to.
Oh, yeah.
I love, Gail Irwin.
Yes.
Gail Irwin was, no, he hasn't passed. He's in care now. His wife has passed, but Gail Irwin, mighty man of God, brilliant theologian, but he would package theology in a way that was very cookies on the bottom shelf. But he had these stickers that he would pass out at conferences. And the stickers, literally all the stickers said, this isn't a Lost reference, it's others. others.
Okay.
Others.
Yes.
Do you see your life and your patterns of life and your rule of life through the lens of others? Or is it just about you? I want to drink these beers, or I want to do whatever, and it's about me versus those around me.
Yeah.
When we begin to put on those others' glasses, so to speak, that begins to clarify that muddy water of what we can and can't do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you may think that you can do it in private and no one will know, but if you do life out in the public arena, some of that's going to seep out. You know, if you can make references to a show that nobody would want you to be watching.
Guilty. Guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that just stood out to me as Ryan was teaching was that the church is meant to be a holy witness.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Ryan, if you've noticed, there's been a vein in the teaching, and I think the last probably 6 months in conversations with Ryan, I think the Lord is really stirring Ryan as our pastor, and it's coming through. We need to consider holiness. We need to consider what it means to be holy before the Lord. Because a holy witness will change people's lives.
Yes.
Not just pounding scripture and, ascribing to this or that.
Yeah.
But actually living a life that's different than the world.
Yeah. Yes. You know, it amazes me how God brings things together that are of a whole, of a piece. You know, they're pieces of a whole. And this morning in my devotional time, I was reading a book I'm going to talk to Josh about later. But Robert Benson is someone whose writing I really have gained a lot of growth for myself personally. He was in the book I'm reading by him this morning talking about being, when he was a salesman for advertising, being in a with a client and starting the conversation just like you normally would, you know. But over time, she stopped him and said, "You're a Christian, aren't you?" He had never spoken a word that would have indicated that. Wow. But he was living out, not intentionally, but because of who he is, what he was, his persona made that point. And he referenced the words that we attribute to St. Francis. Preach the gospel at all times, if necessary, use words.
Love it.
I don't think Francis said it, but
I love it.
I do too.
I love it.
I do too.
Yeah. No, that is very true. I want to give a shout out and just some, the scriptures say to give honor where honor's due. My kids, my 3 youngest kids are all involved in Taekwondo.
Yeah.
And their instructor, I don't think he watches this podcast, pretty sure he doesn't. His name is Zach Hayden. He's an 8th degree, super Kendallville. His father owned Hayden Honda. His family owned it. Zach, he owns a Taekwondo place in Kendallville, and he owns the one here in Sturgis.
Okay.
He is a follower of Jesus.
Yeah.
He and his wife. And I've watched him over the last couple of years because my kids have been a part of Taekwondo. I have yet to hear him say the name of Jesus in the gym or talk about prayer or the Bible or anything like that. But the character of Christ is coming through even as he's telling about these movements and the stuff that they do, the Taekwondo. And he's imparting, he has these leadership classes where he teaches younger Taekwondo students to then become instructors. My kids are all instructors now. Yeah. And they sit in this circle and we would listen. And my wife and I, we go and we just, because it's what my kids do, we sit and we watch them do their Taekwondo. But what you could hear is there were the scriptures were there. Like the scriptures, Zach's always bringing the scriptures to those circles, but the kids never know it. Yeah. And the parents that are sitting, they don't know. Yeah. But he's bringing his faith to a real world and changing kids' lives.
Yes.
Senior Master Hayden, shameless plug for them as well. If you've got young kids, I would tell you Taekwondo is a fantastic discipline to teach integrity, respect, physical disciplines, and also just how to exist as a disciplined person in the world. Check it out, parents.
He's totally right. Two of our kids did Taekwondo. Which
boys did Taekwondo?
It would have been early on. Well, at different times. We have 2 and 2. Yeah. Cody and Jameson and Seth. And so
who went the farthest?
Jameson.
Did he really?
Of course.
I didn't know that.
Anything athletic. Yeah.
I know he'll watch this podcast.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you,
yeah.
Jamison.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not at Hayden, but still, I know the man, and you're totally right. My nephew went all the way through with him, and I could see that character development in him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a great way for us to be a holy witness. Yeah. So as we continue there, just the really, really harsh parts of this, let's go to verse 43. Coming off of this stumbling text to the little ones in the millstone. And if your hand causes you to fall away, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life maimed than to have two hands and go to hell, the unquenchable fire. And if your foot causes you to fall away, cut it off. It's better for you to enter life lame than to have 2 feet and be thrown into hell. And if your eye causes you to fall away, gouge it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of God with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into hell, where their worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. Okay.
Yes.
So
a lot there.
Yeah. What would you say? I mean, talk about those 3 things. We could say right away life means heaven, right? Enter life, enter life, enter life, kingdom of God. What is Jesus telling us, Ingrid? What can we glean from this?
Well, so much allegory in the words of Jesus, and you know he doesn't want you to gouge your eye out or cut your hand off or what. But we talked earlier that anything that you're seeing that you think is of value, if that causes you to stumble, you don't need to take it with you into the rest of your life. You need to remove, cut it out, take it away. And the same with, things that we reach for. I'm taking it very literally, but if we reach for things that, even if initially they don't look like they're going to be a detrimental thing or a bad thing,
harmful,
once you find if you find they're harmful to your walk or to the people around you, we have to always consider not just the impression we give, but also they could pick up the same things that could be harmful to them. So
look at our kids.
Yeah. For sure. Absolutely.
So, give listeners and viewers, Ingrid, what is your sieve? What is your barometer? What is your test in these sorts of things as you consider what to gouge out, what to cut off, what to cast away? Like, how do you judge? How do you do that as a follower of Christ?
I think of people in my life who I would not want to know that I went there, or that I consumed that, or that I walked into that, or I really believe over time, and I encourage anyone to not give up on this. If you keep yourself constantly in his presence, he gives you a sense. He gives you. It's not us. We have the brain capacity for whatever the Lord points out to us. He created us, but I think that if it gives you check your gut.
Okay.
Yeah. If you have a moment but then you go ahead, probably should have stepped back.
Do you remember Velma Brown?
Yes.
Paul Mowry's mother.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Do you remember what Velma used to say?
No.
And it's many people have said it, but Velma would say, when in doubt, throw it out.
Oh, absolutely. Garbage.
Yes. Velma would say,
don't doubt.
When in doubt, throw it out. So you're saying that the barometer, the way that you kind of judge those things is through the lens of others. That's good.
Yeah.
How will it affect those around me? Do you think that that's come over time? Did you always judge your actions that way?
No, I would, there was a season in my life where I'd fallen away from the Lord and made choices that I'm not proud of, but I was only thinking of myself at that time. I wasn't considering, there had been a hurt and I thought, fine, I'm taking care of myself, that sort of thing. So I didn't, sadly, I didn't think about some of that, but that was still there, in the back. Yeah. I think too that we feel like whatever we consume on our own in private, good or bad, is just for us. And if it's good, share it. If it's not, don't do it. Don't consume it. If it's good, because I can get in the habit of, and I'm going off here, but I can get in the habit of consuming lots of good, and then it's all for me. We need to be willing to share, to make sure the good gets out there too. And
I think sometimes when we get into those places where we're not considering how our actions affect others, we're really not perceiving the body as it is.
Oh.
So we have a head, we know who is Christ.
Yeah.
But we are a body.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When we come and we come to the table and we partake of the blood and the flesh, we're reminded of this sacrifice that was made. We're reminded of our oneness and we're reminded of our unity. But what we forget sometimes is Paul says that there are some who have taken this cup and taken this bread and have died. So this tells us that our actions, they do affect others.
Yeah.
They affect others in ways, because the body is not, what do we call a part of our body that is disconnected from the other part?
Yeah.
That's a disability, a disease. If I lose one of my hands in a farming accident, when there's separation, we forget that when one part hurts, that it all hurts. When one part sins, that we are one. We are not separated. We think we are. We think we're hidden. We think we're secret. But Jesus and that's really what communion is for.
Yeah.
Is to remind us of this oneness that we have with Him and with one another. And we don't remember that.
No, we don't. We figure sometimes that when communion is community, that anyone who's in the community is safe. They're okay, and nothing can pull them away. But not true. Not true.
No, it's not true, and I think that's why we do need to consider our own actions.
Yeah.
I think another thing, one of the lenses that I use when it comes to actions is, how do I feel in partaking?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, if I spend 30 minutes doom scrolling through Instagram, what is the result of that? Generally, if you spend any amount of time on social media, the number one result will be covetousness.
Oh,
it will be jealousy.
Yeah.
You will want things because the ads, you're seeing thousands and thousands of ads as you're scrolling.
Yes.
So I'm always looking at, do I feel closer to God through this thing, or do I feel farther from Him? If I feel farther from God, then there's my answer.
Yeah. Yeah. If it puts a divide or a space between, oh gosh. Yes, you're right. Social media is a mixed bag, isn't it? It can be good, and it can also destroy. It truly can, and that's a whole other podcast.
Josh and I rant and rave about various parts of social media. Yeah. Definitely, I use it, and it's a helpful tool. But I did come to a place where I wasn't a part of social media for many years, and now I know why. Because the Lord protected me. I would have made a complete fool of myself. Because I would have been the ranting, raving, political, or hyper neo-conservative religious person on. And now, as I partake in social media, I'm like, I want to know about your kids. I want to know about your grandkids. What cool places did you go for vacation? Yeah. Like what restaurants and that kind of stuff. There is no capacity for meaningful conversation on social media.
No,
you can't do it.
No. Yeah. Don't think Twitter's your place either. Because
No. So
relationship. It's all about face to face. Yeah, I agree.
Yep. So here's another question for you, Ingrid. Because I'm thinking of, okay, gouge it out, pluck it out, cut it off. And Ryan said it this way. He put this question up on the screen. Do we stimulate or stumble the faith of others? Okay, yes. So that was your lens. You said for others. So here's a big question. How do we cut off?
Yeah.
How do we gouge out? And how? I'm going to use Paul's words. How do we put to death?
Oh, goodness.
Because that's what Paul says. Put to death those members which are in you. Colossians chapter 3. How do we do this?
Well, okay. Salt is good. The next verses. I think Jesus told us right there. Keep the saltiness there in your the allegory here, the analogy or whatever, the analogy is what I want to say, but
read it, would you?
Okay. 49 says, and this is again is ESV, but for everyone will be salted with fire. Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its saltiness, how will you make it salty again? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace with one another. So again, that you should spit it out salt comes an awareness, the presence of Christ in your life doesn't come without some fire and some, it will come, there will be fire. You may have had a beautiful, glorious relationship with Jesus up until this point, but there will be testing, and there will also be times when there's no flavor to it. You've got to get the saltiness back in. And I think to be able to let go of those things that are causing us to stumble, where you need to cut it off and put it to death, you can't do it and leave a void. You've got to bring in the things that will, the salt, the things that will heal it. We know salt is healing, right? And
it preserves?
Yeah, and it preserves. And if you feel a loss because you had to let go of something that you did finally realize should not be in your life, you may turn to something else that gives you the same...
To fill the void.
Yeah, to fill the void. And it may not be a good thing. It could be something less objectionable or something that but
you still get not God's best.
No, still not God's best. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I'm getting to what you're...
No, you are. Thomas Aquinas said, that our deepest desire as creatures in God's image is relationship with God. Yeah. Our deepest soul desire. Our flesh fights against those desires, and what the flesh does is the flesh will attempt to fulfill the desire for God.
Yes.
In all these other ways. Now, that's a terrible quote of Thomas Aquinas, but he would have said it much more eloquently. But the idea is that, and it's the Christianese, there's a God-shaped hole in your heart.
Yes, I was gonna say it for you.
Yes, yes. I don't like those cliches. After so many years, they do get old, but it is true. There's truth there. Yeah. That our pursuit, and so it does come back to saying, what am I serious about? Like, what is actually bringing me satisfaction? And even back to Mark 7, I was thinking coming into this podcast, so much of what we're talking about is constitution. What am I made of? What's inside of me?
Yeah.
Because so many times we'll go into these sins, these things that are offending others, offending God, and we just say to God, okay, God, I need you to forgive me. But really, ultimately, why do we keep doing those things? Yeah. Because we want to. Yeah. We love those things. Yeah. They're inside. And like Jesus said in Mark 7, out of the heart of man come these things. And so the real genuine prayer of change in our lives is to go to God and say, God, I actually need you to change my heart.
Oh, yeah.
Because the truth of the matter is that I want this thing. Yeah. I need you to change, do a work, cut off, gouge out, remove, put to death the desires that are in opposition to you, because what I really want is you, Jesus. Yeah. That's what I really want. And I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to pound every nail, and I'm not going to be happy until I find my greatest fulfillment in you.
That's true. I was just, as you were saying that, thinking that sometimes that thing that needs to be removed is not a thing or a desire. It's a lack. A lack. I can build walls. I will admit I can build walls. And if I'm afraid I can't handle something, I'll just wall it off. Even a good thing.
Okay.
It's not just, if-then statements are what we're to come to. If I receive this, then I have this to give. And if you're receiving things that you cannot give because they're not good, soon what will you, what will your fruit be? What will you be?
Whatever we take in comes out.
It does. And if you choose not to take in the things that can harm, that's good. But you also can choose not to let those good things out. And I'm speaking personally. I can sometimes
restrict
self-protection, like to be vulnerable.
Okay.
Sometimes can be hard because, especially if you've had, hurts or whatever in your life. But I just feel like to give I know we'll probably be wrapping up here, but to give a disclaimer, I am not perfect. I do not have this all totally figured out. None of us are a finished product until we're in glory. However, I was reminded this morning in something I was reading that heaven is here and now. So let's do heaven here and now and not wait for that day when we're safe in heaven. Let's just, and so all these things we've been talking about, give freely, love freely, with caution. Take it all in with caution, with filters, with discernment. Don't stop living just to protect yourself. I can do that. I can be the ultimate introvert and just think I'll stay over here with my pile of books and not relate to anybody. But that's not what the Lord wants. Yeah.
Yeah, it is easy to become insular, definitely.
Yeah.
Part of my morning practices, most mornings, is the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah.
And I've been focusing a lot, or the Lord's been causing me to focus a lot on that section where he says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done here on earth as it is in heaven. Just what you spoke, that there is a heavenly reality that we read about, but the presence of God is with us now.
Yes.
And we can experience that now. And the kingdom of heaven can exist on earth through his body, through us, as we engage in those things that are going to bless the other parts of his body.
I heard someone say one time, who knows where, what if heaven is only 3 feet off of our present, the earth? Yeah. What if heaven is right there? Right.
Well, our Orthodox and even our Catholic brothers and sisters, particularly when it talks about, when they talk about saints, there's the presence of those who have gone on before us. Where are they? I mean, a lot of Christian practices will say, well, they're up there, or, I don't really know. I don't have an answer for that other than to say, the Bible says, it talks about the saints worshiping. Like, I know that, like right now they're worshiping, the angels are worshiping as well. And the saints have joined them in that worship. And they're whole. So there's a reality there of eternity that, we're just waiting for. And it's just a vapor, 80, 90 years, whatever we get. Some less, some more. Yeah. Ingrid, it's been a joy to talk with you. Anything else that's popping out in the text to you that you want to share with listeners, viewers, really standing out? Pardon the sounds. We've got some contractors on the roof working on air conditioning. But
one note to myself was to not have I let myself be influenced toward, and we talked about this earlier, but I think that you don't want to live a guarded life, but you want to live a guarded life. So know the people around you, even if they love you and they want what they feel is the best for you. Note to self, who do I let influence me that could cause me to stumble if I put too much trust in them? We want to trust. We want to trust. We want to love openly. We want to wear Jesus on our, sleeve. No, we want to just let it ooze out of us if we can. Something like that.
Yeah.
Like Zach Hayden.
Yeah. It's interesting because Ryan even said, probably towards the end of the message, what you're saying. I think he posed the question, maybe there is a relationship, even a person. You said it earlier, it's not always things.
Yeah.
It's not always like stuff. Like, okay, stop going to that website and looking at those images, stop drinking this, stop. There may be, listener, viewer, there actually may be a person in your life where for a season of time, God is calling you to separate from that person. And I believe actually that I will say there is a listener or viewer that the Lord is speaking to you even now, that you know that this person is hurting you and damaging you, and you need to make a decision to say, I need to kind of fold myself into the presence of God and under his wing, so to speak, and separate from what is causing you harm and danger to your soul and your spirit. That doesn't mean it's forever.
Yes.
That doesn't mean it's forever. I mean, it's so interesting. I've heard this analogy so many times. Someone gets delivered from alcoholism. They come to Christ. Ministry at the bar is not for them.
No. Why do that to yourself?
No, that's not safe. That's not a good place to be. Yeah. Maybe in time, and you've got some miles in the rearview mirror that could be possible. But just be thinking about that. Where are those areas in your life that you do need to cut off, gouge out? Where could you be being used by your own fleshly tendencies to cause people to stumble? We want to stimulate people's faith. We don't want to cause people to stumble.
And we have to be careful not to think that we're going to be the one to save them, or we don't want to be their savior. So back away and let the Savior work and pray, and he'll show you when it's safe to step in.
Well, and on the other side of that, I can say for myself, there are people in my past who I influenced terribly. Terribly. And that same sense and feeling of responsibility, like, I've got to be used by God for these people to come to Christ. I fight from time to time. It's like, man, I led those people the wrong way, and I hurt those people, and I was not walking with Christ. And I look at their lives today. I look where I'm at today, and I look where they're at today, and it's like, I played a part in that. I played a part in where my influence at that time in my life has actually contributed to their distance from God. That's heavy.
That is.
But we don't have any time machines.
No, we don't. And we probably all have people in our lives that before we knew the Lord, maybe, I know I do.
Yeah. Well, Ingrid, I meant what I said a moment ago. It's been a joy to talk with you always. A fellow contemplative soul, it's a blessing. Listeners, viewers, don't forget, the best way to encourage others, if you've been encouraged by this podcast, is to like it, is to share it, push this out on your social media platforms, comment on YouTube. Remember, the Radiant Life Church YouTube channel currently, I saw yesterday, has 834 subscribers. When we get to 1,000 subscribers, so we did a cool coffee tasting event at 750. At 1,000 subscribers, Josh and I have a really cool event.
Oh, I'm excited.
That we're planning. So if you haven't subscribed, I only listen and watch the stuff that I subscribe to. So subscribe definitely to the audio podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we want to encourage you, Josh, and I will be back next week. We will be filming off location. We will not be in the studio because Pastor Ryan is taking the church staff on a retreat. And this is what that fellow does.
Okay.
He never tells us. Listen, we went on a staff retreat a few years ago. We were driving to the airport, like bags packed. He loves this. He's a sneaky fellow, and he will not tell us. And so we get to the airport. He says, we're going to Washington, D.C. for a staff retreat. He's done the same thing this time, guys. And
gosh.
so Josh and I are gonna take some gear and we're gonna record next Monday's podcast somewhere.
Somewhere. A kitchen counter in a B&B somewhere.
That's what we're thinking. That's what we did last year in Florida.
Yeah.
So, well, God bless you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks. And yeah, we encourage you to.
This was great.
Yeah, this was good. So we'll see you or talk to you next week.